The reason I will never go camping again. I was a teenager when my two best friends, Jake and Lucas, and I spent most of our time together. Jake was fearless, reckless even. He was the kind of guy who walked headfirst into danger just to prove he could. The oldest of the three of us, he had a way of making you feel weak if you didn't go along with whatever stupid plan he had. If Jake wanted something, he got it. That was just the way it was. Lucas, on the other hand, was different. He was always the cautious one, always looking over his shoulder, always warning us to be careful. He got scared easily, but he was also the heart of our group. He cared about us, he loved us, and I loved them both. But no matter how much I loved them, I will never, ever go camping with them again. One day, I stayed home from school. I wasn't sick, not really, I just felt off, like my body knew something my mind didn't. It was just my luck that, of course, that was the night Jake decided we had to go on a camping trip.
Come on, don't be a bitch!
He had said over the phone, laughing.
The weather's perfect, and we already planned it. You're coming!
I hesitated. I don't know, man.
Lucas is coming.
I sighed. If Lucas, the biggest scaredy cat I knew, had agreed to go, then I didn't really have an excuse. And if Jake wanted something, he got it. That was just the way it was. The campsite was a 20-minute hike into the woods, a small clearing surrounded by towering trees. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of damp leaves and pine. The sun had already begun to set by the time we set up our tents, its orange glow filtering through the branches. We sat around the fire, talking, laughing, just being kids. Lucas kept glancing over his shoulder every few minutes. He muttered, hugging his knees to his chest. Jake rolled his eyes.
It's the woods, dumbass! There's animals out there!
Lucas scoffed.
No shit, but this doesn't sound like an animal.
I shrugged. It's probably just the wind, man. Relax. Jake smirked.
Yeah, relax, Lucas. It's not like something's watching us or anything.
Lucas punched his arm.
Fuck off.
For a while, it was fun. It felt normal. But then, after a long silence, Jake spoke again, his voice lower, more serious.
You guys ever heard about disappearances in these woods?
Lucas groaned.
Oh, come on.
Jake ignored him.
My parents told me about it when I was a kid. Said people used to go missing out here all the time. Campers mostly. Hikers. And the weird thing, the ones who got out, the ones who survived, they always ended up coming back.
What do you mean?
Lucas frowned.
I mean...
Jake said, leaning in.
That even after they escaped, after they swore they'd never step a foot in these woods again, something made them want to come back. Like they didn't have a choice.
The fire crackled between us. Lucas was visibly uncomfortable now.
Dude, shut up.
Jake just grinned, but there was something off about it. He wasn't laughing this time. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to admit that the story had gotten to me, too. We decided not to sleep. Instead, we stayed up, talking about anything that wasn't creepy legends. Then, at 5:20 a.m., we heard it. It came from the trees, about 50 meters away. A sound like a wolf's howl, except something was wrong. It was distorted, stretched, and deep. And there was something human about it. Lucas and I froze. Jake stood up.
I'm shaking it out.
No, Jake, seriously.
Lucas grabbed his arm. Jake just shook him off.
Pussies!
Then he turned and walked straight into the darkness. By 6 a.m., the sky had begun to lighten, a dull shade of blue creeping over the treetops. Jake had been gone for 40 minutes. We couldn't just sit there anymore. Fuck, I muttered, grabbing a flashlight. We have to find him. Lucas swallowed hard, but he nodded. We walked into the trees, calling Jake's name, our voices barely above whispers. The woods were eerily quiet. Then, after nearly 20 minutes of searching, Lucas suddenly stopped. He pointed into the trees, his hand shaking violently. I followed his gaze. Jake was there, standing completely still, his back to us. Something about him felt wrong. I took a step forward. "Jake?" No response. Annoyed, I walked right up to him. "Dude, what the hell?" Then I noticed it. His shoulders were twitching, just slightly, like he was laughing, but no sound was coming out. A chill ran down my spine. I reached out and grabbed his shoulder. His skin was ice cold. And for a moment, just a second, it wasn't him. It looked like him, but I knew it wasn't. Then, suddenly, Jake blinked. He turned to face me, looking confused.
Alright, let's head back.
I stumbled back. "What the fuck was that?"
What was what?
Jake asked, his voice perfectly normal. Lucas was already shaking his head.
No, we're going home now.
Jake frowned.
Girl, chill! It was nothing!
But he knew. I could see it in his eyes. He knew. After a long, tense moment, he sighed.
Fine, whatever.
We left the woods. For the next few weeks, Jake started acting different. He barely talked to me anymore. He stopped inviting me over, but he still hung out with Lucas. Only Lucas. I didn't care. I wanted nothing to do with that thing anymore. Then, exactly 4 weeks after the camping trip, Jake called me.
Hey, me and Lucas are going camping again. You in?
I almost laughed. Are you fucking serious?
Come on, girl. It'll be fun.
I hung up. But Lucas went. They didn't come back. Not for a day, not for a week, not for 6 months. Then, suddenly, one day they just walked back into town. They looked the same, talked the same, but they weren't them. And the first thing they did when they got back, they tried to take me back to the woods. I didn't know what happened to them out there, but I do know one thing. Those aren't my friends anymore. And they are the reason why I will never camp again.
I contend that your drinking eye is never open. I insist somebody will die, and I hate coping. Wishing that the pills let you cry, and I hate coping. Someday I will go back outside and see her okay. I contend that your drinking eye is never open. I insist somebody will die, and I hate coping. Wishing that the pills let you cry, and I hate coping. Someday I will go back outside and see her okay.